Good morning, everyone. My name is Payares-Montoya, and I'm a researcher with the Public Policy Institute of California's Higher Education Center. Thank you for tuning in for our program today, featuring the findings of a new PPIC report, Improving College Access and Success to Dual Enrollment. I would like to thank the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the College Futures Foundation, and the Student Family Fund for their support of this research and today's event. If you are interested in learning more, the report, policy brief, technical appendices, as well as the slides from today's presentation are available on our website at ppic.org. For today's program, my colleague Iwunze and I will present some of the main findings and key takeaways from the report. But before I begin, there are a few housekeeping items to cover. As a reminder, PPIC is a public charity and does not take or support positions on any ballot measure or legislation, nor does it support, endorse, or oppose any political parties or candidates for public office. At the end of today's program, we have set aside some time to answer audience questions. If you have a question for us, please send an email to the address on the screen, ppiceventquestions@gmail.com. And be sure to include your name and organization along with your questions. And with that, I will begin my presentation. In this report, we shed light on the outcomes for college and career access pathway students, also known as CCAP, from the academic years 2015-2016 to 2019-2020, after they enrolled in a California community college. We compare outcomes for CCAP cohorts with those of other students' cohorts who enrolled in other dual enrollment programs and with students who didn't participate in dual enrollment programs. Although imperfect, this comparison gives us a better understanding of the challenges and opportunities the CCAP program faces. We build on our previous research on dual enrollment in California community colleges, and we use qualitative and quantitative data, including student-level data from all 115 colleges provided by the California Community Colleges Chancellor's Office, and interviews with dual enrollment leaders at 13 colleges across the state. Dual enrollment allows high school students to take college-level courses for credit that can be applied toward an associate degree transferred to the University of California or the California State University, or to a program leading to a career technical education credential or certificate. The state of California offers different dual enrollment options that provide alternatives to high school students, high schools, and community colleges. In this study, we focus on the College and Career Access Pathways, or CCAP program. In addition to dual enrollment, there are other college acceleration strategies that are relevant in terms of improving higher education outcomes for high schoolers, like advanced placement and international baccalaureate. We don't discuss them in this report. Every year, thousands of high school students enroll in dual enrollment courses to take college courses and earn college credits. Dual enrollment can be an effective means of improving the educational outcomes for a broad range of students, including those who struggle academically or who are at risk of dropping out. Empirical evidence shows that dual enrollment allows a greater and more varied segment of high school students to take community college courses, reduces the number of high school dropouts, increases the number of community college students who transfer and complete a degree, shortens the time to complete educational goals, and improves the level of preparation of students to successfully complete for credit college-level courses. Assembly Bill 288, approved in October 2015, authorizes community college districts to establish a CCAP partnership with a local K-12 district to expand dual enrollment opportunities to students who have been historically underserved by dual enrollment. With CCAP, courses can be offered on a high school campus and exclusively to high school students during the school day and at no cost to their families. CCAP also funds students at a higher rate per full-time student compared to the general California community college population. In other words, CCAP helps address the logistical and cost concerns that may be present in other forms of dual enrollment. The state is investing $100 million to expand CCAP this fiscal year. This reflects the momentum behind dual enrollment as a strategy to improve the pipeline into and through college. Although CCAP programs represent a relatively small share of the total dual enrollment across all cohorts in our study, this share has been growing over time. As you see in the orange portion of the bars, CCAP participation has grown from just over 4,000 in 2016-2017 to over 24,000 in 2019-2020, a five-fold increase. In addition to being the fastest growing dual enrollment option in the state, data shows that CCAP participation is relatively equitable in terms of high school race representation. However, more work is needed to ensure equitable representation for two key populations that are underrepresented in higher education, namely Black and male students. Moving to findings, the report finds that most CCAP students enroll in a higher education institution, with over half enrolling in a California community college. As you can see in the column on the far left, 82% of CCAP students enrolled at a 2- or 4-year college within 1 year of graduating from high school. Just under a third enrolled directly at a 4-year college, while just over half enrolled at a community college. Most of the CCAP students who matriculated in a California community college after high school graduation enrolled where they took their CCAP courses, suggesting that CCAP programs may be succeeding at recruiting CCAP students into their college after high school graduation. On aggregate, we find that CCAP students usually perform better than non-dual enrollment students, but worse than students that participated in other dual enrollment modalities. However, it is challenging to disentangle the effects of individual characteristics and the access of different dual enrollment programs. Transfer level English and math are getaway courses, that is, credit courses required to transfer to 4-year colleges. We find that within 1 year of entering college, 38% of former CCAP students completed transfer level math, 59% completed transfer level English, and 32% completed both. These are higher rates than those of students from other dual enrollment programs or who did not participate in dual enrollment. The literature shows that when students complete getaway courses, they stay on track to progress to community college and transfer to a bachelor's program. However, work remains to close the success gaps within and across CCAP groups. For example, Black and Latino CCAP students complete transfer level math and English courses at lower rates than Asian or white CCAP students. In terms of awards, CCAP students, shown in orange, and other dual enrollment students obtain credit awards like associate degrees or certificates at higher rates than non-dual enrollees. Greater shares of Asians and white students completed these awards compared with Latino and Black students. However, CCAP students are slightly less likely than other dual enrollment students to complete this outcome. Other dual enrollees may have an advantage over CCAP students, such as prior academic achievement, family socioeconomic status, and student motivation. We cannot account for these selection factors due to data limitation. Recall that the CCAP program aims to broaden dual enrollment opportunities to students not already on the college pathway or who are underrepresented in higher education. The traditional dual enrollees who take dual enrollment courses on their own are typically higher achieving and more motivated. We also find that achievement among first-generation CCAP students is usually lower than for other groups. By gender, the data shows that male students are underrepresented in CCAP programs and tend to have worse academic outcomes than female students. This is a pattern that repeats across races. And now I invite my colleague and co-author to present some key takeaways from the interviews we conducted with colleges and to share some policy recommendations.
Thank you, Daniel. My name is Iwunze, and I'm a research fellow at PPIC. To complement our findings from our analysis of the data, we also had the opportunity to speak with CCAP administrators at community colleges around the state. We spoke with colleges that have had a variety of experiences with the early years of their CCAP programs. Some saw high rates of success on the outcomes Daniel discussed earlier, while others still have some way to go. Our discussions about the challenges these colleges have faced and the opportunities they see ahead shaped our research here and the policy recommendations we suggest. We spoke with representatives of 13 colleges from all around the state. They were selected based on having established a CCAP program and with an eye toward learning about the experience of those with high and low rates of success. In the hour-long discussions, we covered a variety of topics, including how CCAP can be used to bolster enrollment at the community college and boost the transition from high school into higher education. We also talked about the numerous factors that college staff have seen as contributors to success or the challenges they have faced. We paid special attention to the way in which support for student groups that have typically been underrepresented in higher education have been a focus. And of course, our conversations often turn to the impact of the pandemic and the ongoing investments in online service delivery from classes to student supports. In our conversations, we identified 4 key themes that emerged, tying together narratives from our group of interviewed colleges. The benefits of student success courses and access to college support services were often mentioned, as well as the importance of coordination between institutions and the impact of the pandemic. CCAP in particular, and dual enrollment in general, are intended to smooth the transition into higher education, particularly for underrepresented students, and our interviewees discussed areas where that vision can be supported and achieved. Student success courses bundle academic, behavioral, and personal supports into a single transferable course. And for the underserved students that CCAP programs aim to support, they can be an effective way to help build expectations about college and make students aware of available resources. These courses help students develop time management and study skills, as well as career or major exploration and long-term planning. One of the highest performing colleges we interviewed indicated that offering a student success course was key to their program's results. A challenge, however, is that these courses may not be approved to meet A through G requirements. That is, the set of high school general education courses required for admission to the UC or CSU. Further, these courses are sometimes not transferable between the community college and the state's four-year universities. While the courses are often a valuable experience for students, coursework that doesn't provide the credits to help students advance towards their degree goals is particularly concerning, especially given previous PPIC work on the recent necessary reforms to remediation in the community college system. Like other dual enrollment students, CCAP students are not just taking college level coursework, they are college students. And this comes with access to a variety of resources like tutoring and counseling. These resources can be particularly helpful for underrepresented students in smoothing the transition between high school and college. CCAP programs are unique, however, in that they are primarily delivered on the high school campus. This then requires a deliberate effort on the part of high school and community college staff to ensure that CCAP students have access to the available college supports. Recent investments in online tools can help on this measure. Counseling over Zoom or asynchronous office hours with the lecturer are just some other examples of how to extend these benefits to CCAP students, and these expansions should continue. On a number of dimensions, coordination is key to making a program like CCAP as effective as possible. Integration between the high school and community college is of primary concern. Our interviewees reported challenges in that relationship, particularly around the courses requested by the high school. There was at times too great an emphasis on career-oriented courses, whereas colleges suggested that course offerings lead to a program of study at the community college and beyond. Capacity can be an issue here. Some high schools lack sufficient numbers of staff with the appropriate credentials to teach this college-level coursework. One college reported early work to hire and train staff dedicated to CCAP and other dual enrollment instruction, and similar efforts could be beneficial elsewhere as well. Better communication and clarity around CCAP courses that overlap with community college offerings are another area where coordination between systems can be improved. As with most everything, the experiences of colleges we've interviewed have been colored by the pandemic and all of the disruption that entailed. Declining enrollment has been a concern throughout the community college, though dual enrollment programs and CCAP in particular have actually been a boon in this area, providing some of the only growth in enrollment that colleges have seen in recent years. Our interviews highlighted how CCAP and dual enrollment can both expand enrollment and boost equity and access to higher education. The courses are lower cost than typical community college offerings, so they can be an efficient way to expand enrollment. And with the focus on underserved groups, CCAP can broaden the pool of students that continue after high school to pursue higher education. The pandemic also necessitated major expansions in the online offerings available from the community college. While the quality of these courses remains a concern, coordination between the high school and the college can be an area of focus to ensure that online learning is as effective as possible. Altogether, our interviews with community college staff and our own analysis of the data from the first few years of CCAP programs provide a main takeaway. These programs can improve outcomes for students, in particular for underrepresented students, but there is still room for improvement as CCAP students lag behind students in other forms of dual enrollment. A few key policy recommendations emerge from our work. CCAP administrators need to continue providing access to the resources and supports needed for the transition from high school to college. That includes the student success courses that are a part of many CCAP programs, but students should be encouraged to remain engaged with available resources as they transition into higher education, like college promise programs. CCAP providers should maintain a focus on offerings that allow students to progress to and through community colleges and the other segments of the state's higher education system, making sure that courses meet A through G requirements and are transferable is key here. With expansions in online offerings set to continue, administrators need to be monitoring the use of these courses, ensuring that they are accessible and high quality. Coordination between high school course facilitators and community college staff is important for the effectiveness of dual enrollment. And finally, given that this program lies in the space between high school and college, linked data between the systems is key both for our research assessing the performance of CCAP programs and for practitioners aiming to build seamless and effective programs for their students. Thank you. Now it's time to answer audience questions. Just a reminder, you may submit your questions to the email address on the screen, ppiceventquestions@gmail.com, and please be sure to include your name and organization. And now I'll welcome back my colleague, Danielle Payares-Montoya.
Thank you, Iwunze.
Okay, so yeah, our first question is, so Governor Newsom signed an executive order aimed at strengthening the pathways to high demand careers like healthcare, education, climate resilience, and technology. And it mentions the $200 million investment in dual enrollment as a way to achieve this. What role do you think CCAP plays in these efforts?
Okay, I think I can take that one, Iwunze, and thanks for the question. Well, let me start by saying that there are several statewide initiatives that are aligning to improve college and career readiness for students in high school, like the Golden State Pathways programs, the compacts with the California State University and the University of California, and the roadmap with the California community colleges. And all of them include a goal of ensuring that high school students graduate with at least 12 college credits. Now, the executive order you mentioned and these other initiatives ask all segments to work together to achieve the goal of improving college and career readiness. And in that regard, it's easy to imagine that high school districts working together with community colleges and four-year colleges are going to be using programs like CCAP to offer those courses that are connected with high demand careers and will be helping students to gain college credits aligned with the green economy, technology, healthcare, among the others you mentioned before. And this will be a first step to get students interested in those careers and may lead to some of them enrolling in community colleges or four-year colleges in programs that pursue a degree in those areas. I think in that way, California will be able to get people with the necessary skills to perform the jobs they are being demanded and that are key for the state's success in the coming years. And hopefully and potentially, these careers will be also providing better opportunities to underserved students to get better jobs and achieve economic mobility also in the near future.
Thanks. Our next question comes from Darren in San Diego. And they say, I heard that it's really hard to find qualified instructors who meet the minimum requirements. From your research, what are other districts and colleges doing to overcome this barrier? And I'll take this one. So yes, that has definitely been a challenge. Several colleges we spoke with noted the difficulties they've had working with their partner districts on that issue. In the Central Valley, a number of approaches have been used through regional collaborations. The Central Valley Higher Education Consortium is working to facilitate the upskilling of high school teachers so that they can earn master's degrees and teach these courses. And separately, another college has actually begun hiring instructors specifically to teach dual enrollment math and English at the local high schools. Another question we have here says, considering the importance of equitable access to educational opportunities, how can we make sure that community colleges' approach to dual enrollment programs ensure that underrepresented, marginalized students have fair and inclusive access to these enriching educational pathways?
Okay, well, let me take that one, Iwunze, and thanks again for the question. And that's like precisely because traditional dual enrollment programs were not necessarily offering the same opportunities for everyone, is that programs like CCAP are an important way to serve students who have been historically underserved. As we have been mentioning during the presentation, CCAP offers free access to students to college credit courses in their high school at no cost, and also avoids other administrative barriers that may discourage underserved students to access dual enrollment. And we can see in the data that CCAP programs enroll Latinos, and by the way, the state's largest student group, at a rate that is representative of their share in the high school population, something that was not happening with other dual enrollment programs. Latino CCAP students, for example, were also more likely to enroll in college within 1 year of graduating from high school, like through CCAP. And now, like the only thing that the program needs to address and needs to improve to achieve like other equitable representation is for Black students in CCAP programs, and that will demand more work in the future for sure. But nonetheless, CCAP seems to be a fairer and more inclusive way to offer better opportunities for students than other dual enrollment alternatives so far we have seen. So we are sure that high school districts and community colleges will continue to work together to improve the program.
Thanks, Daniel. Another question we have here comes from Carolina Cardenas, at the executive director at California Gear Up. And they ask, what are examples of other dual enrollment programs? And I can take that one. So yeah, of course, we've been talking today about college and career access pathways, or CCAP, but that's just one of many options for dual enrollment for California's high school students. Some other more structured programs similar to CCAP are early college high school programs, as well as middle college high school programs, which again offer a structured way for students to get some experience taking college level coursework. Outside of that, other sort of unstructured programs include self-directed dual enrollment. You think of a student, taking classes at their local community college, for example. The unique thing about the CCAP program is its co-location on the high school campus. And then in addition to that, it's also, as a program, intended to expand opportunities to students that have typically been underserved or underrepresented in higher education in the past. So one special thing about CCAP is that it, again, expands that population of students that are looking at that transition from high school to college. And then just to compare more broadly outside of dual enrollment to other college acceleration strategies, another example of that you mentioned earlier, Daniel, include advanced placement courses, or AP, as well as the International Baccalaureate program. And another unique advantage of CCAP and other kinds of dual enrollment programs is that this is offered for free, whereas the AP program requires the payment for the test and can be, or has been experienced to be, less accessible than something like CCAP can be for a broader range of California students. We have another question here from Gemma in Crescent City. And they ask, can you tell us more about first-generation CCAP students and their outcomes in this study?
Okay, I can take that one, Iwunze. Thanks for the question, Gemma. Yeah, just to mention, like, the percentage of like CCAP students that are first generation, like that's close to 42%, and that compares roughly to 37% among students who participated in other dual enrollment programs, and like more or less 45% among those who had no prior dual enrollment experience. But what we can see through the report, and I invite you to go there and check the details, achievement among first generation CCAP students is usually lower than for non-first generation students. For example, first generation CCAP students complete transfer level English and transfer level math at lower rates than non-first generation students, and they are also less likely to earn a credit award within 3 years than non-first generation students. A similar pattern occurs with completing 30 or 45 or 60 credits within 3 years of enrollment, and also GPA for within 1 year of enrollment is lower for first generation students than non-first generation students. But to be fair, this is also happening to first generation students from other dual enrollment programs and to students that didn't participate in dual enrollment, which means that there are still like a bunch of opportunities to improve outcomes for those students that are potentially the first in their families to complete a higher education degree.
Thanks, Daniel. Another question we have here comes from Mark Martin, and they ask, what are the biggest barriers to expanding CCAP programs across the state, and how can the state, LEAs, local education agencies or school districts, and community colleges overcome those barriers? And I think I'd say the largest barrier to expanding CCAP is it's a relatively new program, and it requires interest and investment, I think, on the part of all the partners that need to be involved, whether that's the community college or the local high school districts. And I think that coordination between segments is key to ensure that CCAP offerings are both high quality and give students a real path to and through the state's higher education system. And I think perhaps even beyond that, there needs to be a willingness to invest the patience, the time, and resources that these programs need to ensure that the many benefits of college education are extended to the larger pool of students that CCAP is intended for. Another question here comes from Aaron Littlepage, excuse me, and they say, as colleges struggle with attracting male students, have you seen any evidence from the data that CCAP programs increase male enrollment in college?
Well, what we have seen in our studies that male participants are underrepresented in CCAP programs, and that happens across all races and ethnicities. Why is that happening? Well, we will have to further explore that question, because we don't have an answer to that right now. But yes, it's a very interesting pattern that is repeating not only in dual enrollment or CCAP in particular, but also in community colleges in general. Males are usually enrolled at a lower rate than females, and that's something that we could be exploring in other studies for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Another question comes from Tuli Nguye, and they ask do we notice in the CCAP data any racial disproportionate impact based on the class modules, whether that's online versus in person or synchronous versus asynchronous, and whether the classes at the high school versus the college. So the CCAP program classes are typically administered at the high school, and in our study directly. Some of the delivery method, as well as the way in which those methods of delivery are implemented, have been. A quick question here from April Moore asks, could we clarify what we're referring to when we mention credit awards?
Well, credit awards refers to associate degrees obtained, for example, at a community college, or other credit awards that they can be acquiring through the completion of different courses while they are enrolled in community colleges.
Right, yeah. Another question here comes from Mishan Sims, and they ask, with the expansion of CCAP, more grants, more exposure, and schools offering dual enrollment, what's the plan for teacher and professor shortages? And I think that we mentioned that earlier, that is a challenge facing the sort of continued expansion of CCAP programs. It's just finding the staff with the appropriate credentials to teach these college level courses at the high school. We mentioned some of the efforts down in the Central Valley on this measure. There have been a variety of things that places have tried. They have tried to support or facilitate the upskilling of current high school teachers to get them their master's degrees so they can be credentialed to teach these college level courses. And at the other end, some colleges have also invested in training and hiring their own instructors to teach dual enrollment courses specifically, which is another way that, again, this collaboration between the colleges and the community and the school district can work towards providing the necessary personnel to provide these dual enrollment opportunities. Looking at another question here. We have a question here. What support strategies are most successful with first-generation students? Coming from Paula in Vallejo.
Well, we don't explore that specific question in the report, but we could presume that some of the same strategies that are usually used to support underserved students, and that is like having advisors that explains to them and their families how to apply to college, continue studying after high school, how to get access to different kind of supports that are being offered or is because they don't.
It's not clear that students who are on, and our CCAP pathway is aligned with associate degrees for transfer for those who are pursuing most successfully. Having that coordination between the high school and the college is key. So CCAP courses are high school courses that students receive credit for, and there needs to be coordination between the college and the high school to ensure that they're also receiving credit at the college, whether that's towards their associate's degree or even transferable to a UC or CSU or another four-year university. It varies from course to course and between programs. A lot of this is up to the discretion of the receiving college. But again, that coordination between and across segments is key to ensure that these programs are as successful as possible, both in putting students that may not have been on the path to a four-year or to a college experience, and also ensuring that they are successful in meeting whatever their higher education goals are. Looking through here, another question we have is, this one comes from Don at the Yosemite Community College District. And they ask, high school district administrators tend to prefer that dual enrollment courses be embedded in their students' instructional day. Noting that high school faculty often do not meet minimum qualifications to teach the course, does your study suggest which models of dual enrollment best meets the instructional day preference? And I'll just take this one on. We don't necessarily in our report speak to which model would be better in terms of meeting that requirement, but we did hear back from the colleges that we spoke with that this staffing issue is a concern. Just making sure that the staff that teach these courses have the appropriate credentials has been a challenge, both having that in your high school staff, but then also in efforts from the college to provide those staff. So again, that's another area where, again, coordination is such a key to ensure that these programs are, again, available and made as successful as possible to the students. And a quick question from Michael Fuller. They ask, our workforce pathway is focused on biotechnology. Through CCAP and dual enrollment in high school, biotech classes are strong, though CCAP dual enrollment in high school, biotech classes are strong, matriculation to our pathway at the college is not. Is there any information on the impact of CCAP on workforce-focused pathways like biotech or other sectors?
Well, although in this report we don't go into the details of which classes or pathways students are taking while they are enrolled in CCAP or other dual enrollment programs, administrative data will provide some answer to that. Like, for example, which credit awards are they getting during their enrollment in community college, or which specific courses in which specific areas are they focusing on, and if they are related or not with these pathways to high demand careers like healthcare or education or climate resiliency or technology or biotech, as the person is asking. And that could be an interesting thing to explore. But the key part will be to connect that information we are seeing at the community college and high school level with labor market outcomes. And unfortunately, we cannot have access to that information. We cannot connect both worlds. But in the near future, with the cradle to career data agreement that is being developed, we are going to be able to explore those kind of things, because yes, we would like to know which specific pathways are students taking and what are the results they are achieving in the labor market.
I got another question here. I think we'll wrap up with this one coming from Sergey and Chico. They ask, How does the integration of dual enrollment programs align with community colleges' enrollment strategy, and how does it contribute to fostering increased enrollment, diversity, and student success? And I'll go ahead and take that one. So CCAP and dual enrollment more broadly can be useful in meeting both colleges' enrollment and equity goals. And really the two should be seen as complementary. CCAP has been the main driver of growth in dual enrollment, and we've seen that the program enrolls greater shares of Latino students than other forms of dual enrollment. And nearly all the colleges that we interviewed told us that one of the main benefits of CCAP was the increased enrollment and of course, the funding that comes with it. In fact, dual enrollment accounted for about 20% of enrollment at one of the colleges we spoke with. So with that, we've reached the end of our program. Once again, I'd like to thank our funders, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the College Futures Foundation, and the Sutton Family Fund for supporting today's event. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us online. If you pre-registered for this event, later today you'll receive a survey. We would appreciate you taking a couple of minutes to respond to let us know how we did. Thank you and have a good afternoon.